Welcome to the EP podcast. I'm your host, Carlo Navas, and with me today, to my left, Mr. Problem himself, Alex Musibai.
Yo, what's going on, people?
How does it feel that you've started a movement, sir?
It's honestly crazy, man. Like, I was talking to you guys about it the other night. Like, I was telling this to Christian literally since the day he was drafted, and it became like a running joke, almost just to piss him off anytime we would go to a game, to start screaming drip drop. And now to actually on my feed is amazing. So thank you.
It's a staple of Hangover Time, which is our postgame show, which you can check out after every single Heat game. And by the way, if you're listening to us on the podcast, we're broadcasting from our Twitch page, twitch.tv/MIAHeatbeat. Get in on the conversation. We talk with chat. Chat's popping right now. They're dropping some drip drops in the chat. They get involved. They ask us questions. They help us produce. Let me tell you something. You've been a godsend. I think the pods have been better because chat really helps us out. So if you're an audio only, we always tweet out the schedule and what time we go live. So check out or follow us on Twitch so that you get the little notification and all that good stuff. On the bottom of the screen, trash tweeter, Weird Alf himself, Jack Alfonso.
What's up?
Jack, I kind of coerced you to come on today because we were arguing in our group chat and on the timeline about a topic that I care way too much about.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into it. This was really a last minute thing. I was not supposed to be on tonight, but then you asked and I was like, all right, fine. So here I am.
As you can see from the header on Twitch, the topic of conversation is Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo's all-star snub. Chad is upset, as I am. And it's kind of weird because all-star is kind of an innocuous thing that doesn't matter. And I think we're all in agreement that it's probably better for the Heat if they don't go play in that game because it's dangerous. It's dangerous out there with COVID, and the Heat really can't afford anybody to be in health and safety protocols for one more damn game because that's the hole they dug themselves into. So the all-star reserves were announced. It's going to be James Harden, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Ben Simmons, Zach LaVine, Nikolai Vucevic, and Julius Randle. Moose, I'm upset. I'm upset because the coaches decided, they watched basketball, they game plan, they know the game, and yet they decided that Nikola Vucevic is having a better basketball season than Bam Adebayo, and they decided that Julius Randle also had a better season than Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. We're going to get into all the nitty-gritties, and I'm going to make my cases. But, I mean, there's so many things wrong with the reserves. I mean, like Ben Simmons getting in, I think, is ridiculous. I think Jaylen Brown really fell off the last half. I think, Zach LaVine is another guy that I'm not crazy about him making. I think there's a lot of imperfect. I think Tatum and Harden were the only two guys that, like, legitimately were locks to be reserves. But I tell you that Jimmy and Bam are snubbed, and you say?
I would agree more with Jimmy being snubbed than I would with Bam being snubbed. But you're also talking to someone that is just extremely happy that they are not going to Atlanta for the All-Star game. Sorry, Jimmy and Bam, but it's just I don't want you guys getting any extra minutes. I don't want any risk at any COVID injury, nothing. Like, just stay the hell away. So I'm probably the wrong one to ask. But again, I think Jimmy had a much more valid case than Bam.
I think Jimmy Butler is legitimately one of the best players in the NBA. I think his play since he's come back from his COVID protocol has been absolutely spectacular. I think we also have to forget that before he went out with COVID protocols, he was on a bad ankle. He turned the ankle in Orlando the very first game of the season, and he just legitimately has not. He started the season, he did not look good, right? And Jimmy's been amazing. He's averaging 19 points, almost 8 rebounds, almost 8 assists, with 2 steals. He is the linchpin of everything they do on defense, I think, even more so than Bam since he's returned, because since he's come back, the Heat are the number 2 defense in the league, and all their metrics and their trends trend right. They're good rim protectors. They close out on 3-point shooters, which they weren't before because Jimmy's now that help man and all that stuff. So, Jack, you were calling me, I think you called me cringe on the timeline because I was complaining about this.
Okay, so I guess my take is two-pronged. First of all, you're like what 3 games under 500, in no position to be talking about what you deserve or don't deserve.
The
There's
Knicks
a
are
reason
3 games
the
under
NBA
500. It's all the Knicks are the Magic
I'm
are
not
under
worried
500.
about them.
I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about Heat fans who, right now, the team looks like dog shit. Like they had a couple of good
No,
wins.
they don't.
They have 2 wins that
They're
are
above
impressive
500
on
since
this.
Jimmy's come back. They've legitimately been a good basketball team.
But that's not the window of time that you're measuring this. You're measuring it from the beginning of the season to now.
No, Jimmy played like 3 games before that.
But Jimmy, exactly. Jimmy wasn't playing the
Jimmy
game.
missed a
Other
ton
players
of games.
Jimmy
Tatum missed a
ton
bunch of games.
It's not fair.
But
Durant missed.
Okay.
Are we sure Tatum's better?
Yeah.
Because I'm not there. Tatum's
I'm not
team
sure,
sucks.
I think
Tatum's team is, I think,
Tatum's
below
team is better
500.
than the Heat.
Yeah, we're
Huh?
below 500. They're at 500.
But when
Well,
Jimmy
okay.
plays, they're above
My take is
500.
not
They're
about
a
what
winning
people deserve
basketball
or what's
team when
not.
he plays.
But my point is, if you're below 500 as a fan base, you're not in the position to be like, oh, we deserved this, we got snubbed. You are at the position right now where people are going to snub you whether you deserve it or not, because nobody's paying attention to you because you're a bad team. And I know everybody's riding high on like the past couple of wins, but they still have one of the worst offenses in the league. For the most part of the year, they've been really like not a good team. And really to date, they have like 2 impressive wins. One of them against the Lakers and another against the Bucks. And other than that, I don't know if they have another win that I would hold up as particularly impressive.
Okay. That's very nice.
No, but I will agree. I will disagree with Moose. I think Bam deserved it more. But I also think not if Jimmy was getting voted in as a backcourt player, I think he absolutely would have deserved it and would have gotten in. But the front court was kind of loaded. The backcourt, I think, had like I don't think Jaylen Brown is better than Jimmy. I don't think Zach LaVine is like deserved it more than Jimmy. With the front court, it's a little complicated. I think the biggest snub is not Bam or Jimmy. I think it's Domantas Sabonis because his team is really good right now, and he has numbers that are like comparable with anybody playing.
I totally agree, Jack.
His team is
Sabonis
500
should
too, Jack.
be there.
What do you mean his team is really good?
They're in the playoffs,
They're
are they
4 and
not?
6 in their last 10. Their metrics don't trend well since Jimmy's come
Nobody
back. The
gives
Heat
a
have
shit
been
about metrics. This is the All-Star game. They're the 4th seed in the East. They're a playoff team.
with a 500 record, which the Heat are
They're
like
above
a
500
game.
right now,
Okay, they're 1 game over 500.
as opposed to us who are 3 games under 500.
Sorry, I'm
They're-
with the Hamburglar on this one, man.
They're 2 games.
You're alone on this, G.
Okay, wait a second. They're 2 games ahead of the Heat, so it's not like they're like much better. They're 2 damn games better than the Heat. That's not a big difference. Sabonis, I agree, is a good player. I think Bam has been better, but that's whatever. If Sabonis had gotten in over Bam, I wouldn't have been too upset. Randall plays for a below 500 team, a team that's only a game better than the Heat. And again, I always point to this. Let's look at if we're really looking at these guys and whether they deserve this honor or not. What is their production like when they play versus when they don't? How much are you really impacting your team? And I've pounded this drum a lot. When Jimmy's on the court, when he's playing basketball for them, the Heat are outscoring opponents by almost a 5 net rating. They have a 112 offensive rating and a 106 defensive rating. When he sits, when he doesn't play, they're getting outscored by -8 net rating, -7 point whatever net rating, with an offensive rating of 106, which is like almost dead last in the league, and a defensive rating of 113, which is fucking awful. So the impact that Jimmy has on the team when he plays is more than any of those guys that you can say. More than Randall, who's a minus both on and off. He's just a slightly less minus when he's off. LaVine, who's better. The Bulls are better when LaVine sits by 8 points in a not insignificant sample size. And Vucevic, who is also plays for a bad team, right? Who doesn't impact winning the way Jimmy does, because when Jimmy has played basketball, they have won games. They have a positive point differential in the games that he plays. They are
Barely.
above 500. They are. If you said the Pacers are a really good team. If Jimmy was healthy, the Heat would be above the Pacers. And
the Pacers have had some injuries too. Like they're not like.
And in a COVID season, for you to punish a guy that got sick because he missed 2 weeks of basketball, when Tatum missed a week of basketball, when Durant has only played 50 more minutes than Jimmy Butler, I think it's a little ridiculous. Huh?
Okay, Here's one point I will make is the Heat are deserve to get punished on some level. The reason why we're talking about where the Knicks are basically in the same position, a little bit better than the Heat right now, and the Pacers like a little bit better than the Heat right now. The reason they don't get the same scrutiny is they didn't make the fucking finals last year. The Heat made the finals last year, and they are one of the biggest disappointments. Maybe I know, but like they are still one of the biggest disappointments.
But we
in the
still
NBA.
have way too
They were
many
starting
losses.
Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and KZ Okpala. What are they
That's
supposed to do?
In the front office. I mean, we've talked at length about what they should do, and I think what Moo's about to say is they have way too many losses that are inexcusable. They have not been a good team this year. They have been maybe the most disappointing team in the NBA this year, fairly or unfairly. I don't think they should be playing this year. I think COVID unfairly took them out. But they also, like, even healthy, they haven't been wonderful. They've been better, and they have a really good defense and a really bad offense. They are still a disappointing team, even with health.
That's fine, and I agree with that. And I'm not gonna disagree because we've been on this show and we've kind of pounded that like a lot, and they've sucked. They've flat out sucked, and even the games, but like. Again, they're 11-8 when Jimmy plays, and they're 3-9 without him. Dragic has played 2 games with Jimmy since he's come back, and that matters, right? Their health matters, right? And I think Jimmy's impact on the court, I think the numbers say so. I think the films say so. They're really good on defense, and a big part of it is Jimmy
and to those numbers, that's why I think Jimmy is more deserving than Bam because of the impact that he makes when he's out there. And also, I kind of agree with you in the sense that, like, let's not give this guy a disadvantage because he had COVID. So Jimmy comes back from COVID, and what does he do? Puts up triple doubles. It just goes to show you that the all-star of this team, as much as we want it to be Bam, is actually really Jimmy. So if we're going to have a representative, it should be Jimmy. But with that being said, I didn't want either of the guys to go. So drip drop, I'm happy.
Bam's on-off numbers are a little interesting, and I actually think this bodes really well for him. So when he's on the court, they're minus 0.9, and they have almost a 110 offensive rating and a 110 defensive rating. They're almost even, really. When Bam's off, they're minus almost 5 with a 105 O rating and a 110 D rating. That says a lot to me as well because, a lot of those games that he played were with, starting Gabe Vincent and Strus and all these dudes when they were, fighting to stay alive against, and that was a really tough part of their schedule, right? They played the Brooklyn Nets twice. They were not gimmies, and I think the fact that he has treaded water in terms of his on-off differential is important. I think the numbers obviously speak for themselves. He's like 20, 10, and 5 on really, really good shootings. He's one of the most efficient players in the league. His free throw shooting's up to 85%, and he gets to the line almost 6 times a game. He's been really good. Obviously, on defense, the pedigree is there, and we know it. And again, they have the second best defense since Jimmy Butler's come back. And
what's their offense? What's their offense look like?
They're 25th. They're 25th in offense.
That's really bad.
Defense wins championships, Jack.
They're bad. They're bad. But if you look at the metrics, and if you look at the film, I mean, that's not. I think we've gone over this. Our offense is bad because Andre Iguodala is killing their spacing, and Duncan Robinson can't hit a shot. Right? Like it's a part of it. And you see what happens last night in the fourth quarter. They're running the same stuff, and Duncan makes a couple shots, and all of a sudden, their offense looks pretty fucking good, right? Because they have really elite shooters moving off really complicated sets. And when those guys get in a rhythm, it's hard to defend. So I agree, Jack. I think they should be docked for their offense. But, I mean, you look
They
down.
should be docked for everything.
But it's Julius Randle.
Do you think that...
Like, we look at the competition. It's
they're more
Julius
impressive. Of course.
Randle.
But the Knicks are a success story right now, and the Heat are.
No, they're not.
Again,
they suck. They're below 500.
Okay, but relative to expectations, this is
that doesn't
probably
matter.
One of the best...
What does that matter for? What does that matter for an individual
because it's the All-Star
accolade?
Game. Because it's the All-Star Game, and that's how it works. It's a stupid thing that really shouldn't like be tied to any legacy discussion because it's always been this way. Because there's always been like bullshit narrative stuff that gets into it. Just like with any NBA award, but especially the All-Star Game. And honestly, if you're not a Heat fan and the Heat are not your number one priority that you're looking at, you think, hey, the Heat look like absolute shit. And I'm sorry, even with Jimmy, they do not look tremendous. They look fine.
They look okay.
They look bad for a team that made the finals last year.
Okay, but
they
the
are
Knicks don't look good
disappointing team.
either, is my point.
But the Knicks have been bad for decades and decades, and now they look not like the worst team in basketball.
They have like a little sliver of hope.
That's not an argument. Thank you, Curtis Hero, for the tier 1 gifted sub. That's not an argument for them, though. You're just like rewarding a franchise that has been legitimately sewage because they fucking sprayed some Febreze over it. Like, what are we talking
I mean, it's not
about?
logical, but like that, I'm telling you, like.
But I'm arguing it logically. But like,
it's the All-Star game. It's the All-Star game.
And can I just
All-Star
say,
game?
this is absolutely the worst All-Star game. Like, if I'm one of the players, why the fuck do you even want to go this year?
Exactly.
Can I talk about like how pissed off I am with the scheduling really quick? Because I'm probably one of the only people who actually really enjoys the Saturday night like shooting contests, the slam dunk, all that shit. That's the only part that I really enjoy. I don't give a shit about the game, okay? So now they moved everything to Sunday, put it all in one day. It's so late as hell. You're going to have the slam dunk contest at halftime in the middle of this game. Guys are going to be fucking up the dunks and all that, and the shit's going to go way past midnight. I'm not going to get any sleep. We're going to have to pod after. It's going to fucking suck. Go.
We have the day off.
It's a bad game.
That's a little better.
You're 100% right that, like, I know, this is not what you're arguing. I know we're all in agreement here that it is overwhelmingly positive for them to miss. I think Jimmy's legacy at this point is not at all tied to All-Star games. I think he can make 10 more All-Star games and it wouldn't be a drop in the bucket. I think his legacy is entirely tied to postseason success at this point, doing things like he did last year. And with Bam, when you're 23, you're going to make 10 more All-Star games in the next decade. Like, he's going to be like a for sure starter for the next foreseeable decade and stuff. So like, I'm not worried about that. And it's going to be a super spreader event. It's an atrocious thing that they're doing. Like, one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life.
By the super spreaders.
Hold on, but I want to get into that stuff. The kind of the ridiculousness of the holding a damn event in the middle of a pandemic when we're pretty close to the end. These All-Star appearances, they matter for legacy when we're talking about Hall of Fame and stuff like that. Like, Jimmy only has 5 appearances, and he's had a couple circumstances in his career that has caused him to miss out on some. For example, like Lowry has more than Jimmy, right? And when it comes down to it, at the end, when it's time for him, he might not get it because of a couple missed All-Star appearances. And that's the stuff that bothers me. And I agree, Jack, that, this stuff shouldn't be tied to legacy, but it unfortunately is. And that's why I know, like, I take it seriously, like, when I want to say, and like, I don't have a vote, right? Like, if I did have a vote, I would take it really serious. It's why I like guys like Zach Lowe and Kevin Arnovitz, because they like legit understand, like, this stuff matters, not just for players' contracts, but for legacy and their Hall of Fame stuff and everything. Like, 5-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA third team, 4-time All-NBA defensive second team. I want him to get in because he deserves it. I think Jimmy Butler's a Hall of Fame player. And, it might get to the point, if next year, he gets hurt, or next year, I don't know, the batch, Trae Young goes off and Jalen is amazing and Tatum and Kemba's back, you don't know what's going to happen next season. And if he has a little bit of a down here, the East has a lot of really good guards and the front court players are obviously incredible. Look at whatever's going on in Brooklyn and all that stuff. Like, it could get tough for him. And I just think that he fucking deserves it this year. That you can't sit here and in good faith tell me Julius Randle is having a better basketball season just because he's played 5 or 6 more games or 7 more games, whatever it's been. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I if I was picking, I probably would have Bam and Sabonis in, and I wouldn't have Vooch in. And I don't know if Randall is the guy I take out.
Why is Randall, like, I think
he's been really good. I'm a Randall fan, so I'm a little bit biased,
am too. I like him.
I don't know. I think Simmons making it over Bam is kind of bullshit. Like,
Simmons
I know they're
has
winning.
Not had an All-Star year. Yeah.
He hasn't. And he's been really good, and I think I'm incredibly impressed by him. I don't think he's an All-Star. I think, like, the numbers look really good. I don't think LaVine is. I think the backcourt. I think Levine has been really good. He's fine as an all-star pick. I'm not mad about it.
I think Levine got hot when it mattered, and the coaches were.
No,
were
Levine's
rewarding him
been
for it.
putting up numbers all year. I just think that they're bad
Middleton
when he's on the court.
would have been the guy.
These last couple
I picked.
games, he's been reaffirming it.
He is what he is. But Middleton is better.
I'll say about Jimmy, like you're right about how it matters for legacy and Hall of Fame voting. As I said earlier in the pod, I think Jimmy, where he's going to make his legacy, is in the postseason at this point. He really needs to like have another run like he did last year, and I think then he's a shoo-in. But like also like on the subject of what's fair and what's not fair, like if you're talking about a season that has been unfair to one guy in particular, it's Jimmy. Like literally carried his team to 6 games in the finals, like after everybody got injured around him, and he gets rewarded with the shortest offseason in NBA history. And then he gets rewarded again being forced to play against a team that everybody and their mother knew had COVID and was spreading COVID. So then he gets COVID.
He rolled his ankle.
And he rolled his ankle. But like that goes with having the shortest offseason in NBA history after carrying such a heavy load. Is like he was really like set up for failure in every way at multiple points by the NBA. And I'm not saying there's a conspiracy against Jimmy Butler, but I'm saying they really like fucked him over in a way that they didn't do to any other player, because no other player was in his specific situation where he was carrying such a uniquely heavy load in the finals and then given such a short turnaround. I don't know. I do think there is something to be said though about like this Heat team being incredibly disappointing, and you have to expect to be penalized for that, because
I'm not that. I don't follow you there. I don't follow you there, because every season's a new season, and last year's expectations shouldn't affect individual awards. And I know that there is a team element to it, but I just disagree with you. By the way, Shmita Smolnik in chat is saying, has G looked at the stat comparison for Jimmy and Julius? Julius is better at everything other than assists this season. That's fine. You can do that. You can play the game of Julius has better accounting stats. I've pointed out the on-court impact. Jimmy impacts winning in a way that Julius Randle does not. And Julius Randle's having a very good season. He's scoring the ball. He's doing so efficiently. But at the end of the day, he's getting like one more basket, and he's getting like one more or 3 more rebounds, whatever. Like really, you're really gonna point at here and say, oh, it's so much better because he gets a couple more rebounds and he makes one more field goal. Like, come on. Like,
why isn't he able to be voted in as a guard? Like, why is Jaylen Brown able to be voted in as a guard, but Jimmy isn't?
Well,
I mean,
why are they doing positions? Why are they doing positions anyway?
That's
the
true.
issue with Jaylen has been the defense has really fallen off lately, and
he's been good. But like, if you're talking about who doesn't deserve a spot, like I think the front court in the East is way more loaded than the back court.
I don't know why you're not. I don't know why you're going to Jaylen before you're going to Vooch and Julius Randle. Like, what are you doing?
Vooch and Julius Randle have been. I mean, if you're just looking at like counting stats, which is basically what All-Star game is.
But these are coaches that are voting for this. Coaches
but
are
it's
not
still
doing that.
An All-Star game. It's not all NBA. It's a little different of a criteria.
They're gonna
it's
vote
like,
the same way. I think the media votes way better than the coaches, but that's a different.
I don't know. But I also think. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's some saltiness against Miami, deservedly so. Like, I don't know. I just can't expect to be treated fairly in a season where it was your job to prove that you weren't frauds, and you look like frauds.
Chat's mad.
They weren't frauds last year.
Chat really wants Julius Randle, and I gotta be honest with you. He
was really good.
I hate when people are happy for first-time All-Stars. I'm not. I'm sorry. I don't care about your cute little story. That's literally the Knicks Super Bowl.
He doesn't give a fuck about your happiness.
This season, the only thing that fucking matters to that poverty fucking franchise is this guy making an All-Star team. That's literally the only thing that matters, because they're not going to do shit. They're not going to win shit. They're fucking losers, and they've always been losers, and they haven't been good since Patrick Ewing. They Carmelo Anthony made them good one time, and they got their ass kicked by a trash can.
Better record than the Heat right now. Better record than the Heat.
The Heat have been ravaged by COVID while they haven't. So let's start by that.
Okay,
So
but,
they're slightly,
prior
like
to
I
that, I
said,
didn't know-
they're sewage with a little Febreze, and all of a sudden everybody wants to fucking celebrate and throw confetti and roses. Fuck out of here. It's a loser.
I don't know why
franchise,
you're
and this is
keying
the
in on
only thing they
Randall
care
as
about.
opposed to Vooch. Like I
I
think
think
Randall
both, because
deserved
I
it more
think
than
Jimmy and
Vooch.
Bam deserve it over them. Both of those
Sabonis
guys
deserved
are
it
the two-
more than one of those guys.
Sabonis is my biggest snub of the East squad.
No,
at least.
Van Vliet's another guy that has a better record
Okay,
than
no,
all
no,
those
no,
other
Sabonis.
guys.
Shut up.
If
Okay,
we're going
never
for just
mind.
like
We're talking
overall
about-
the biggest snub.
Van Vliet, you motherfucker.
The Raptors are better than all these teams, but whatever. Like, it is what it is. The Raptors have the same record as the Pacers. So
I'm not acting. Okay, Philly Heat. Okay, Philly Heat. Why do you even watch our? Never mind.
Philly Heat's mean to us on Twitter. That comes to all the streams. That's amazing. Did
Okay.
you guys see Dwyane Wade's
I'm
ballot?
not acting like they're a good team. I'm not acting like the Knicks are a good team.
You are. You kind of are.
No, they're not a good team. What I'm saying is just I think the way people process it, and I'm not saying it's logical or fair, is you see what the Heat were last year, and they are performing way below expectations.
That doesn't.
You see
how
what
does
the
that
Knicks
affect
have been for the
All-Star?
past several decades. I'm not saying it's logical or fair, but I'm saying the Knicks have been an eye-popping team to some degree. Julius Randle has been an eye-popping player to some degree. The Heat have not been an eye-popping team. Bam has been an eye-popping player, but again,
Bam hasn't even
on
been
a
better
team,
than Jimmy. I don't even know what you're doing there.
Jimmy has also been an eye-popping player, but again, missed a large chunk of the season where like people were gathering data, which matters. I'm not saying it's logical. I'm not saying it's fair, but like
Durant played.
this is
has only
perception.
played 50 more minutes than
But
Jimmy.
this is
Again.
perception. If you're looking at the Heat from an outside perspective, and you're not saying you're doing like this absolutism where you're saying it's an individual accolade and stuff, and like you're right in this purely logical sense. But I'm talking about perception. When you see how disappointing the Heat are, you don't want to reward them as much. And the Knicks do not have that same problem. And I know they're
you're
not a good
explaining
team.
the behavior
I know the
of
Heat
the
are
voters.
better than the Knicks, like overall in the long run when healthy. But I think, and you can criticize the coaches for not coming at it purely logically. But like when you look at it, the Knicks are more impressive than the Heat have been when you are comparing the context of last year, which is how a lot of people process these things, even
Philly
coaches.
Heat makes a good point in chat. The Celtics aren't disappointing, and they have 2 All-Stars. I mean, they've been not good.
Look, I'm saying I don't think Jaylen Brown should have made an All-Star game. I don't think that's. I think him being voted in as a guard is the reason he made it. If he
More of a
was
position thing.
yeah, it's more of a position thing. I think the guards are more shallow. I think maybe Middleton deserved a spot. I would have liked to see Middleton get in there. He was in as a guard as well, right? Like Middleton is a guy I would have over. I don't know. I haven't looked at it that closely. Probably over Jaylen
So-
Brown. I agree. The Celtics probably don't deserve 2 All-Stars either.
So Dwyane Wade's ballot came out. Have you guys seen this?
No.
No.
Okay, so Dwyane Wade's reserves: Ben Simmons, James Harden, Domantas Sabonis, Julius Randle, Zach LaVine, Jaylen Brown, and Fred VanVleet. So Dwayne, no Jimmy, no Bam.
Well,
I
mean,
can't believe we have to cancel Dwyane Wade. I love Dwyane Wade, and I can't
But
believe we
I-
have to cancel Dwyane.
I don't necessarily disagree with him. And
I
honestly, I
do.
think
I'm just-
listening to you fight right now, like I'm not as emotionally invested in it, but I will say it's possibly because I fully expect Bam and Jimmy to return to multiple more All-Star games. And besides that,
I don't know about Jimmy, man. I don't know. Like, you guys, like, there's nothing guaranteed in the sport. Do you remember when the Oklahoma City Thunder made the final against the Heat, and everyone was like, they're gonna get it. They're gonna get another shot at this. They literally never did.
but then to Jack's point, then he'll solidify his Hall of Fame career by what he does in the postseason.
We don't know that he's gonna get another chance like that, man. We don't know that.
If you're Dwyane Wade, though, I respect the decision.
If you're
'cause-
Dwyane Wade, you're a shitty friend. I
No,
can't
if
believe
you're Dwyane
Dwyane.
Wade, you're saying, hey, my teams when I was healthy never fucking got this bad. They were, if I had two All-Star, if I had a Bam next to me or if I had a Jimmy next to me, our teams would not be 3 games under 500. We would have more than 2 wins against above 500 teams. Who get your asses back in the gym. Like, what are you doing? You made the finals last year. If I'm Dwyane Wade, I keep them off just for spite because you were making the Heat look bad. You're making my organization look bad. No, I think you got to get serious and like, I don't know. It sucks, but this is what happens when you're below 500. You leave yourself up to maybe unfair decisions. If you are a good team, there's no question that one or both of them make the All-Star game. And I know you can do like, what about? And that's perfectly fair. But the problem is like, when you are this bad, you have less eyes on you. People are less impressed with you, and people are less willing to give you what you deserve or what you think you might deserve. And like, that's just a problem. And that's why I advise to not be 3 games under 500. Like, it's easy as that. They should have won more games.
I disagree. I think that the health matters. I can't excuse some of the losses, like to the depleted Clippers and that botched. You know, it's funny because I was thinking, Moose, they were a quarter away, because in reality, I mean, they were up double digits in the fourth quarter against the Warriors. They were a quarter away from having a 5-2 road trip. Like, you know what I mean? That's pretty insane.
And
right?
that would have changed the national narrative vastly, I believe.
It is what it is.
Would it have been enough to put these guys in though? I'm still with Jack on that.
I mean, they won the game that they had to win. They won the primetime ABC game, you know, on Saturday night. That's the game.
Yeah, that was the must win.
And that Jimmy and Bam played exceptional. I mean, Bam was. I like the phrase "tornado" on defense. I mean, that's what Bam was doing. Everything. I mean, Bam was easily the best player of that game, and Jimmy, you know, played really well. Jimmy defensively was awesome and kind of controlled the pace of the offense. So, I don't know. I'm just upset about it. It bothers me. I think it's good that they're not going though, because the rest is going to help them. So maybe this will be a blessing in disguise. They looked tired yesterday against the Thunder. A lot of short jumpers, and really Duncan and Kendrick bailed them out. I mean, Kendrick really has bailed them out a lot in the road trip. I mean, I know it's not a secret that I'm not a biggest fan of his game, but I mean, legit bailout play after bailout play from Kendrick. You know, some spot up threes late in the shot clock that went down. His shooting has been unreal. He's very quick to the rim. So they look tired. They don't have they don't have legs right now. So the rest is gonna help them. Is gonna give Goran a little more time to come back. And if they can get Jimmy on fresh legs, Bam on fresh legs, and Goran on fresh legs to make a run in the second half of the season, I really like their chances. I think they're mostly on the road to recovery. And I want to kind of get into the rest of the season, kind of the first half where they're going to be in a second. But I mean, they're 14 and 17. They're 3 games under 500, 2 games back of the 5 spot, 1.5 of 6, which is the Celtics. So encouraging. There's stuff to build on. So let's look ahead for the schedule, kind of going forward, because it's a bit of a tricky schedule. I think that when I first looked at it, it looked a little easy, but I've kind of changed my tune on it. So they play Toronto tomorrow on Wednesday. Then they play the Utah Jazz on Friday. Then they play 2 against the Hawks, and then they play 1 against the Pelicans. That's a little rough. Those 2 Hawk games are going to be big for them. I think that Raptors game tomorrow, and they're going to get the Raptors on the second night of a back-to-back. They're playing against Philly right now. Philly's bludgeoning them. Kyle Lowry is still not back for them, and I want to preview that game in a second. But those 2 Hawk games, I think, are must-wins. I think that Raptor game on the second night of a back-to-back is a must-win. I think they got to try to steal that Utah game. They have to, man. They have to. I mean, they got their ass kicked by them, and they're going to be coming back at home. I think that's a game that maybe they don't take, but I really want them to. And then the last game before your break against the Pelicans. Moose, I hate doing prediction stuff, but like, what's an ending to the season with those 5 games that would make you happy?
If you get definitely both Hawk games would be fantastic. Raptors, and I don't know about Pelicans.
So 3-2. So 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2. I'll take it. I'm not expecting anything against Utah, to be honest, just because I think Utah's playing at a higher level right now. However, I will say I fully expect Jimmy and Bam to have that one circled, and they are chomping at the bit to get to that game after the last one. So anything's possible. But give me 3-2, and I'll be more than happy.
What you got?
4-1. They have to play
I'm
over
kinda
their
with
heads
you.
a little bit. I agree with what you're saying, Moose. And I mean, if they go 3-2, I think it's a win. But you are still, regardless of what happens, they could go 5-0, and I would still say they need to make a trade. They need to make some kind of move. This roster is not complete. I still don't think they're a wonderful team. But yeah, I agree. 3-2 is like decent. I think 4-1 is where I'll be like, okay, yeah, like maybe this team isn't kind of what we thought they were all year. Like maybe they're a little better than what they've looked like in the past. 3-2, I think, is the expectation. 4-1 is a success. And I don't know, like I think they have to assert their dominance over the Hawks. And then I think they have to get it's the Raptors, the Jazz, and then who else?
The Pelicans.
And the Pelicans. Yeah, I think they have to get 2 of those 3 games. Whether it comes against the Jazz or they could lose to the Raptors and I'd be fine as long as they beat the Jazz or but yeah, 3-2 is fine. I think 4-1 is what I'm looking for as a barometer for success. 3-2 would just be, this is the same team. Nothing changes about my perspective on the team. And again, as G has vociferously argued throughout this entire podcast, this is a team with 2 All-Stars and 2 well-deserving All-Stars. Indisputable that they are deserving of All-Star appearances. So they should they should roll over the Hawks. They should, beat the All-Star-less Raptors. And the Jazz, I mean, I think I'm done with giving this team excuses for not beating teams that are better than them, if that makes sense. I think at a certain point you have to say, this is a good team. This is a team with multiple stars on it. And there should not be a team in the NBA that you circle as a scheduled loss. If you can beat the Lakers, even though they had Anthony Davis missing, then you should be able to beat any team in the NBA on any given night. And I think that's how I felt about the team last year. And that's not how I feel about the team this year, obviously, because they haven't beaten anybody except for the Bucks and the Lakers. But they need to start playing like a team that doesn't have any scheduled losses because they can't afford them.
So the Heat right now, the Hawks actually are a little feisty. They've kind of put together some winning lately. So I think those are the 2 games that I kind of worry about because it's also tough to sweep those little mini series because I think a lot of times coaches make adjustments and players kind of respond to those adjustments a little better and easier when they're right in front of you. The Hawks, actually they're 3-7 in their last 10. They had really kind of risen up the standings and they've kind of fallen over themselves. So their offense has improved. I know in the beginning of the season, their offense started near the bottom and their defense was actually kind of feisty in the top 10. And that's really fallen off since the Hawks defense is already 22 and their offense is at 12th. So they've kind of corrected it despite kind of a weird start for them. The Raptors game tomorrow I think is interesting because they're getting blasted by Philly right now. Korkmaz is just doing whatever he wants. The Sixers are just shooting the lights out and it's going to be tough for them. Lowry might come back against the Heat, which will make things difficult. I think that those point guard matchups are just tough for Miami. The Raptors have also gone to playing really small, so they'll oftentimes go OG Anunoby / Siakam at the 4 and the 5, with the small guy at small forward. So that really, really small ball, I think kind of bodes well for Miami because obviously their rebounding has been an issue, although they've corrected that since Jimmy's come back. They're 12th in rebound percentage. But you kind of like Bam going at these smaller guys, and while those lineups are a lot more switchable and it's going to be tough on their shooters, I do think that Jimmy is a really good guy at matchup hunting, so that he's going to be able to pick on some of those smaller guys, especially if Lowry's not in. There's going to be a smaller guard that's going to be huntable. So that's going to be interesting, but the smaller lineups do provide for more switching. They don't go as much with Aaron Baines anymore. Jack and I are going to get into more of that in the pregame show. I like what Killard said in chat, that if they go 4-1, that tells me that they're back, and they've really been.
He said back on track.
Back on track.
Back on track to being back. Not back.
Back on track,
to being back.
But ask
back
yourself
on the track
this:
to be back.
How much faith do you guys have that they're gonna go 4-1 now?
Oh, none. None.
Exactly.
Little to none. Yeah. No, you're being realistic, and I think pragmatic and like the realistic, clear-eyed thing is that they're 3-2.
Hopeful.
But like hopeful. Like a hopeful thing is 4-1, and that
4-1 is like
4-1.
4-1
that's a statement.
That's a statement, and it says, hey, we're a legit team, because I don't feel that yet. I know the Lakers game was a really good win. I know like the fact that they've been able to string together some wins is really positive, but they're still not playing amazingly. None of those games were, I think, decisive statements. I think they all had little encouraging things about the team. Like, I thought it was really cool that they were able to play kind of down all game and then end up kind of, handily winning last game. Like, things like that, those are really encouraging things. But like, I have not seen a game yet where I say like, oh, this is a team that can go back to the finals. This is a team that, like, as constituted, can make big waves in the playoffs. I have not seen that team this season. Maybe against the Bucks I saw it, but even then, like, I don't know, because it was also like pretty close to a pretty devastating loss to the same team. They lost by like 50 that game, and then I don't know. They need a trade. We've been talking about that. Somebody brought up the Myers-Leonard thing. I forgot who asked it. Somebody asked if we can sign I think Schmeath and Schmolnick asked, are we able to split that into 2 signings?
You cannot. So actually, it's funny because when I saw that, I immediately went to ask Keith Smith about that, because he's a big Keith Smith. By the way, follow him. He does really good work at Keith Smith NBA. Knows a lot about the cap. He said just 1. So they cannot split that up. And also, I think it was Albert Namad said that you can't, if they trade Myers, I think they lose that. So they might have to sign the guy first and then trade Myers. So it's a little complicated for them. But they cannot split that up. That's like $4.3 million that they cannot split.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's tough. and the buyout, I mean, it's going to be tough in the buyout market. It's going to help, obviously. But the Heat are going to have something that a lot of teams that are kind of contenders cannot normally offer a buyout guy. Can offer them money and role. And those 2 things are often not what you normally get. You normally get one or the other. Sometimes, I remember when Wes Matthews got bought out, he went to the Pacers because of role. They offered him, hey, listen, you're going to play a lot because we need you. And he didn't go to a team like the Heat or the Lakers that were a little bit better because there was just no, you know what I mean? There wasn't a role for him. So this is something that I think is interesting and kind of that the Heat can kind of play. I think that they're going to try to get to the deadline and see what they have and then make a decision, because they do have some chips to cash. I think Duncan's obviously an interesting chip. I think if Kendrick keeps up his play, that's interesting. And they need to do a deal while also maintaining lineup flexibility. I was looking at some numbers with Olynyk. His stats with Jimmy are like absolutely unreal. And I don't know if I'm drinking too much of the Olynyk Kool-Aid, but I mean, they've been really good together. So when Jimmy and Olynyk are both on the court together, they're bludgeoning teams. They're plus 14 net rating on almost 400 minutes. The offense is at 115, and the defense is surviving. They're at 101, which is a really, really good defense.
I actually didn't know that. Damn.
Yeah, they're playing great. And when Jimmy's without Olynyk, they're minus 10 net rating, and their offense tanks to 104 net rating. And when Olynyk's without Jimmy, that looks like shit. So that's been interesting that Jimmy's success has been tied to Olynyk minutes. And I think part of that is they get spacing at the big spot, either the 4 or the 5, and then Jimmy has a pick and roll partner plus Olynyk kind of spreading the floor. And I just think
he knows he has someone in the corner that he can trust if he needs to.
And he's guarded out there. He's not like Andre, where Andre is really
you have to take him
off
seriously.
Moose, have you seen it? Like, Heat fans really, really don't like Olynyk.
He's a roller coaster ride. I mean, like, it's what we say on Hangover Time, but it really is. Like, he's a good player. I like Kelly Olynyk, but does he frustrate me? Absolutely. I mean, there's sometimes where, but with all that being said, he's our best option at the 4. We need him to space the floor, and those numbers with Jimmy just go to show you that if he helps our best player excel and exceed what he's doing on the court, then keep him out there, give him all the minutes.
One thing so before we go, because we're running on time, and this is mainly an all-star show and kind of looking ahead to the rest of the season, Jack, I've been very curious as to what the Jimmy Bam kind of fixes have been this season, right? So I was kind of looking on trustypbbstats.com, which is a great site for lineup data. You should all be using that as a tool to be more informed basketball fans. When Jimmy and Bam play together in games that they've both played, so I want to throw out all those, games where they were with COVID lineups. They're winning. They're winning those minutes. They're almost +1. That's concerning to me. I think that you want that to be more. I think they shouldn't be barely winning those minutes. I think they should be decidedly winning those minutes where they're both on the court together. So I think that's something that we should be monitoring. What I think is encouraging is that when Jimmy plays without Bam, they're winning those minutes by a lot. They're plus almost 9 per 100 possessions with a really good offense. Jack, that surprises me. Does that surprise you? Because I feel like when Bam's on the court without Jimmy, it looks like a struggle.
Yeah, I guess those numbers surprised me. I'd have to think more about them, but I don't know. Again, this team is not. Those numbers don't suggest that those are both all-stars. If I'm going to be a dick about it, and I am, those numbers to me would not suggest that these are 2 all-star players. Would it? Wouldn't those numbers be a little higher?
I agree. I think that, and that's one of the.
And I win.
That if you want to look at
there we go.
I agree with you. I think if you're going to nitpick them, you would go to that. Although their individual numbers are good without each other. So Bam without Jimmy,
that's fair.
Almost +9. Jimmy without Bam, +15 net rating. And when they both sit, so when neither on the court together, they're -16 net rating, which is why Eric Spoelstra should never do that ever again. He does that sometimes, and it drives me fucking crazy. Smith and Smolnick in chat says G looks up stats like most men look up porn.
Just looking at some
stats. I love lineup data. What could we say? So it's just I kind of wanted to monitor that because I thought kind of the Jimmy Bam staggering has been interesting, and I think what they did against the Kings was smart. I think they decided, okay, no more Jimmy and Bam-less lineups. We're not going to do that anymore. We are going to have one of them on the court at all times, and we're going to try to overlap when we can. But, I mean, they haven't been great when they've overlapped. They've been barely treading water. And I want to see what Goran looks like there because even when Goran has played, they're like -1. So they're not good with the 3 of them. It's only 66 minutes. So we got to see. There's a lot of basketball left to be played, and I do think that some of their trends are looking good. I want to answer one person in chat because I saw them put up a bunch of names. Garrett Temple, Efra Payton, Valentine, McGee. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ogilvy. God, do you guys want Ogilvy? No way. I don't want Ogilvy.
Hard pass.
Yeah, I mean, James Ennis. I don't think Bazemore is going to be available. Like these are a lot of that's a lot of hopeful names. So I don't know. It's going to be tough looking ahead. Remember, we're going to be pre-games and post-game show before and after every single Heat game this season. So make sure to check that out. Jack, we're almost ready to launch the Weird Alpha pre-game show. We're really excited about that. That's going to be fun. Check out Moose and Alf and Tiff and everybody on Hangover Time after every game. Remember to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Miami Heat Beat to claim your rewards, baby. You could be on Hangover Time. You could be on Heat Beat. We do some watch parties, right, with some of our listeners. Those are a lot of fun. I know Alf and Siobhan are really excited for the next one. We're going to try scheduling that soon. And we have some, we have some very, 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 very cool announcements coming up for Heat Beat. Today was a really good day for us as a company. So we're really excited to share with you some of the new things that we have going. And make sure to support us in all the ways that you can. It's been a dream come true to do this and to have you guys kind of back us in the way you have. Like, that's been fucking awesome.
Everyone's really been amazing. Thank you guys. And make sure you also check out Stream Beat. That's the only reason I'm here.